Good day, grade sevens. Today we'll be looking at concept vocabulary, and we'll also be doing some grammar concepts. Okay, so if we look at this slide, we have done these words in our vocab, but today I would like us to use it in context. So here are the words again: crisis, urgency, illusion, pollution, environment, and universal. Now, it goes on to say that the concept vocabulary words describe settings or situations. So this helps us to understand the setting, meaning where it's taking place, as well as the situation, what is happening. These vocab words help us in the stories to understand those factors. For example, in paragraph 10 of the speech, Gore states that we dumped another 70 million tons of global warming pollution into the thin shell of atmosphere surrounding our planet, as if it were an ocean sewer. The word pollution describes a poisonous component of a setting, okay? If we look in this picture, pollution tells us about a poisonous component. Component is a part of a setting that's happening. For example, Earth's atmosphere. So that word pollution helps us to understand those factors. Now, if I had to ask you, based on crisis and the word urgency in the text, we could conclude or establish that crisis expresses the level the problem has reached. That word helps us to understand the situation. The situation, it's a problem. The crisis is a problem that this problem has reached, or the level that the problem has reached, okay? And then we have urgency. It expresses the need to act quickly. So there we have the word urgency, and that tells us the situation. We need to act quickly. It's urgent. It's important. Okay, so this helps us to understand some of the concept vocabulary. Now, the words that we have here are urgency, pollution, universal, environment, illusion, and crisis. Now, if we had to practice these, okay, if we had to practice these, using these words in sentences. Here it says, confirm your understanding of the concept vocabulary by using them to complete the sentences. The first one, we have environmental groups work to educate the public and eliminate the illusion that the earth is perfectly healthy. Okay, you'll see on page 384, we need to use these words in the correct place. Now, how do I know to use illusion then? Right, I know this because remember, I understand the meaning of the word illusion now. And illusion means something that is not real, okay? Now, a lot of the public or the environments or the people, they have an illusion about the earth. Everybody thinks that the earth is perfectly fine and normal, but it's not. It's not real. Remember, an illusion is something that's not real. So we want to eliminate it. That's how I know I need to use that word. We want to get rid of the belief, okay, that people think the earth is perfectly healthy. So the word there would be illusion. In the second one, it would be, despite scientific evidence, many world leaders have yet to consider the health of the environment a crisis. How do I know to use that word there, right? So despite scientific evidence, despite it says means never mind the scientific evidence, many world leaders have yet to consider the health of the environment a crisis. So even though we know that we have scientific evidence that the world is being polluted and we're in a crisis and in a state of urgency, still many world leaders have not yet, this means have not yet considered the health of the environment a crisis. They haven't considered it yet a big problem. Water shortages are common across the world, making the problem universal. Remember, universal means it affects everyone. That's how we would know. We need to understand these sentences in order to use the correct vocabulary. And we also need to understand the vocabulary as well. Then we have leaders such as Gore. Sorry about that. Leaders such as Gore work with a variety of organizations to create a sense of urgency. We used this the other day, to create a sense of importance about environmental issues. Urgency means need to act now because it's important. So that's how we would know we must use that word there, because they want to create a sense of urgency. Number 5, increased instances of wildfires show how the environment is changing. And then obviously our last word there would be pollution. Right, let's move on. Okay, this is just a bit of a grammar practice using prefix. Now, just to remind you that the prefix uni, that's how we pronounce it. It's a Latin prefix. It means one. And a prefix is a word or a few letters that we can attach in front of the word to change the meaning of the word. In his speech, Gore defines the climate crisis as universal because it affects everyone in the world, similarly as if all people were one entity. So that's how Gore uses it in his speech that we read. So it says here, write your own sentence that correctly uses the word universal. I would like you to try that on your own as well. And then the second question here, which you'll also find on page 384 of your perspectives at the bottom, it says find 3 other words with the prefix uni and record the definition of the word. So there are 2 examples, unicycle, unicellular. Remember, uni means one, so go and find your own words and record the meanings of them, please. And that you'll also find at the bottom of page 384. And then we come to the end of where I want to show you what infinitive phrases and what gerund phrases are. Now, these can get quite tricky. So I want you, for the next session of the recorded lesson, to turn to page 385 and read through the infinitive phrases and gerund phrases and try to understand it before we move on to our next session. And in that next session, we'll be looking at some infinitive phrases and gerund phrases, what they are, how we can identify them, and how we can also form our own phrases using those grammatical conventions. And that brings us to the end of this session. So don't forget, please go and read through page 385 and complete the activity on page 384.